La Dolce Vita star Anita Ekberg dies. Anita Ekberg, star of La Dolce Vita, has died aged 83. A former Miss Sweden, she was branded a sex goddess for her performance in Federico Fellini's 1960 movie. The moment where she wades through Rome's Trevi fountain in a strapless dress is considered one of cinema's most iconic scenes. Ekberg died in Rome on Sunday morning, her lawyer confirmed. She had been in hospital since Christmas following a series of illnesses. The actress had been in a wheelchair for several years after being knocked down by one of her pet Great Danes, breaking a hip. Born in Malmö, Sweden, in 1931, Ekberg was the sixth of 8 children. She said her father, a harbour master and a strict Protestant, was the apple of my eye, although she later fell out with all but one of her siblings. After winning the Miss Sweden title at the age of 20, she travelled to America where she took part in the Miss Universe contest. Although she didn't win and spoke very little English, she was immediately signed to a contract by Universal Pictures. The studios sent her to work in Italy, where she played Henry Fonda's unfaithful wife in King Vidor's War and Peace, 1956. Anita Ekberg. Ekberg became known as Ekberg Iceberg in a nod to her Scandinavian background. Anita Ekberg. The actress was linked to several Hollywood stars in the 1950s and 60s. It was in Rome that she met director Federico Fellini, who cast her in La Dolce Vita as Sylvia Rank, the most wonderful woman created since the beginning of time, an actress pursued by news photographers. The famous scene in the Trevi fountain saw Ekberg and her co-star Marcello Mastroianni wading through the chilled waters in sensual abandon. The sight of the water caressing her impossibly voluptuous body was shocking for audiences in the 1950s. Jump media player help out of media player. Press enter to return or tab to continue. Anita Ekberg's most famous role was in La Dolce Vita. The Vatican condemned it, but the famously sharp-tongued actress was unrepentant. "I'm very proud of my breasts, as every woman should be," she once said. "It's not cellular obesity, it's womanliness." Line break. Anatomy of a scene. La Dolce Vita. The fountain scene was shot on a chilly March morning in central Rome. "I was freezing," said Ekberg. "They had to lift me out of the water because I couldn't feel my legs anymore." Her co-star, Marcello Mastroianni, found the scene even more difficult, despite the luxury of a wetsuit under his clothes. He needed his acting resolve stiffened by an entire bottle of vodka, Fellini claimed. More than once, he fell over drunk in the freezing water. "I have seen that scene a few times. Maybe too many times," Ekberg told Swedish radio in 2005. "I can't stand watching it anymore, but it was beautiful at the time." Line break. Considering that La Dolce Vita gave rise to the term paparazzo, it was ironic that the movie resulted in Ekberg being hounded by the press herself. She was constantly in the headlines for her romances with Hollywood's leading men, and her lovers were said to include Errol Flynn, Yul Brynner and Frank Sinatra. But she also made the front pages when, in 1960, she turned on photographer Felice Quinto with a bow and arrow. Quinto was amongst a pack of reporters who followed her from a nightclub to her villa in Rome. During the fracas, she was photographed with her knee in one man's groin. The actress was furious, Quinto later reported. Anita Ekberg. The actress's star waned in later years. At 24, Ekberg married British actor Anthony Steele in Florence, Italy. Continue reading the main story. Start quote. "I don't know if paradise or hell exist, but I'm sure hell is more groovy." Anita Ekberg. The police were called in to control the crowds who were trying to get a glimpse of the couple, but the marriage was doomed by Steele's heavy drinking. Right from the start he'd go out somewhere and not come home till the next morning, Ekberg told Sydney's Daily Telegraph in 2000. On the third night I came home to find him swinging from the lights like an ape, smashed out of his mind. Because he was jealous, he was always picking fights with any man who approached me, and the last time we met he borrowed $100,000 from me which he never paid back. The couple divorced in 1959. 4 years later, Ekberg married Rick Van Nutter, who played CIA agent Felix Leiter in the Bond film Thunderball. That union also ended in divorce in 1975. Waning popularity. Alongside La Dolce Vita, Ekberg also appeared as a foil in Bob Hope's comedies Paris Holiday, 1957, and Call Me Buana, 1963. Her other roles included Blood Ali, 1955, and Hollywood or Bust, 1956. Fellini cast her again in his section of the portmanteau comedy Boccaccio 70, 1962, where she played a 20-feet version of herself with plunging cleavage, stepping down from an advertising hoarding to stalk a prudish doctor. But the actress's popularity was not enduring. By the late 1970s, Ekberg had virtually disappeared from the screen, making only rare appearances in forgettable European films, although she appeared as herself in Fellini's 1987 cinematic memory book Into Vista. Anita Ekberg at a screening of La Dolce Vita in 2010. Ekberg at a screening of La Dolce Vita at the Rome Film Festival in 2010. Martin Scorsese and Anita Ekberg. The movie had been restored by Martin Scorsese's Film Foundation, and the two met at the premiere. According to several reports, the actress was almost penniless at the time of her death. She had been robbed of jewelry and furniture, and her villa was badly damaged in a fire, forcing her to move, temporarily, into a care home. However, she continued to work, and opened a Fellini exhibition in Amsterdam in July 2013. Her lawyer Patrizia Ubaldi said that, in her last days, Ekberg was saddened by her illnesses and her advancing age. She had hoped to get better, something that didn't happen, she said. But in an earlier interview, Ekberg had said she was not afraid of death. I don't know if paradise or hell exist, she told Sweden's Aftonbladet, but I'm sure hell is more groovy.